So, the morning starts with the corporation discovering a new source of income: brewery tours. Peter Griffin is right there. He comes downstairs, gets handed an old jacket, filthy pants, and a rotten banana, the mandatory tour guide starter pack. That's it. He's now the face of the brand. On the very first tour, Peter immediately sets the mood. Who's heard of beer? Half of you? Perfect, let's get started. He then takes the guests through the brewery and shows them a VR film about the founder, Pawtucket Pat. In virtual reality, they relive dramatic episodes from the 18th century, from a storm at sea to an encounter with natives, and finally, the tragic fall from a height in Philadelphia. Since the equipment was clearly malfunctioning, the participants were forced to remove their headsets early. When the tourists return to reality, Peter asks them about their experience and invites them to ask questions, but is met only with skepticism and boredom. Suddenly, the brewery gets an unexpected visit from a VIP guest, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Understanding the delicacy of the situation, Peter does his best to deliver a calm and informative tour. Brett is thrilled by the selection and the vibe, repeatedly stating how much he loves beer. And he doesn't want an ordinary tour. He wants to immerse himself in beer, to understand its soul. So, Peter gives him a true beer adventure. Fueled by the experience, things quickly escalate from a standard tour to a full-on party. Guests start drinking right on the spot, and Peter joins in the tasting himself. Peter and Kavanaugh become fast friends. They drink beer, swim in sink, share their problems, and pee in a barrel. Yes, literally. Everything is going great, until Kavanaugh turns out to be dead for a second. Then he comes back to life. Just a joke. He was just really drunk. Under the influence of alcohol and general chaos, a tragicomic incident unfolds. Peter thinks he's killing Justice Kavanaugh right there on the brewery floor, and he imagines himself as the judge. The plot takes an even more satirical turn. Peter finds himself in the Supreme Court building, where a supposed hearing is taking place. The justices, including Kavanaugh, are portrayed as elite snobs, completely detached from reality and absorbed in their selfish, meaningless arguments. The court proceedings are shown as an absurd spectacle, where real human rights and freedoms are decided by people who couldn't care less about the outcome. All that matters is their own ego, and nothing else. The justices either don't notice the switch or pretend it's perfectly normal. Peter sits in a robe, makes absurd declarations, and no one objects. Kavanaugh stops by the drunken clam bar and is drinking at the counter. Peter's friends spot him and start mocking him for his poor reputation as a judge. Kavanaugh walks over, offers each of them a bottle of beer, and starts sharing the weird twists life throws at everyone. Then he suggests they all head to the beach for a booze-fueled hangout. Everyone eagerly agrees to the party. As a result of recent events, Peter temporarily becomes a Supreme Court justice. He quickly finds himself presiding over a series of ridiculous cases, turning the courtroom into a full-blown absurdist spectacle. The show satirizes not only the pomp and circumstance of official procedures, but also the personal biases of the justices themselves. Verdicts are handed down not based on logic or law, but on whims, petty preferences, and outrageously irrational reasons. In the evening, Lois and the family connect with Peter via video call. They're surprised to see that he's ended up in the very heart of the judicial system. Peter is flattered by their reaction, clearly enjoying the attention. But then Lois tries to push him to do something meaningful, to take a stand in favor of same-sex marriage, which is under threat of being banned. Peter, however, doesn't take her request seriously and just goofs around with phone filters instead. And so the real satire begins. Kavanaugh returns to the Supreme Court, where the justices now resemble characters from a soap opera. There's Stacey Barrett, Sonia Sotomayor, and even Clarence Thomas, who speaks for the first time in 30 years. They're debating, you guessed it, banning same-sex marriage. But Peter swoops in and convinces them to ban all marriages. That's it. During the heated debate, Peter, backed by his wife Lois and their dog Brian, urges the justices to consider the real-world consequences of their rulings. Meanwhile, on a sunny beach, a wet t-shirt contest is in full swing. The judges pick a winner, the girl with the biggest boobs. Brett Kavanaugh throws a fit. The wrong girl won. The contest was about t-shirts, not who has more going on underneath, he shouts, demanding fairness. Here he is, a Supreme Court justice, passionately defending the rules, in swim trunks and foam. Beer, drama, and a strict sense of order. That's our justice system, folks. Brian the dog arrives in Washington to visit and support his friend Peter in this challenging endeavor. In the end, the court upholds the right to same-sex marriage by vote. Peter, relieved, realizes that his ridiculous stunt, bringing Kavanaugh back to life, actually helped draw attention to the importance of justice. The justices thank him for his sincerity, and Peter feels, maybe for the first time, that he's done something truly meaningful. In the finale, Peter finally feels like a real participant in something bigger than himself. He understands that sometimes the most absurd events can lead to real change, and that even the clumsiest hero can both mess up and somehow help save lives. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Thanks.